Hello there! How are you folks? Nice to see you. Well, I can't see you, but I appreciate you being there on the other side of the camera. Anyway, I'm going to do a quick video here talking about Quicken's newest release. It is essentially the web-based version of a home and business product. Now, I guess I won't go too deep on that in the intro, but I'm excited about this. This was kind of the question mark of, would they take the Quicken Classic, suite of features and bring it to a fully web-based product as like a new product, or were they going to do some kind of transference of the Quicken Classic product to a web-based thing? I guess they're kind of giving us our answer here. So I want to take a quick look at it and compare it a little bit to the Quicken Simplify product and maybe even a little bit to the Classic, because I'm curious what it does and doesn't do related to Quicken Classic. All right, so I'll see you in there. But before we get to me in this same video, just a little bit later, I want to ask you, if you like my content, to please give me the old like and subscribe. That really helps me out. And also, I wanted to let you know that I am relaunching my flagship course, which is now called Personal Finance Mastery. And in there, of course, I go over tracking your finances, in particular tracking it with Quicken Classic, but we'll probably start adding this new software to that as well. But more importantly, I go over and help you understand like the global situation with personal finance. It's not just about tracking. That is one fundamental thing, but I have 5 areas that make up personal finance. There's tracking, there's planning, investing, earning or growing your earnings, and retaining your money, which predominantly comes in the form of tax planning. So those 5 things together really make up personal finance. And if you want to get to an advanced level of personal finance, and in my course, what I like to say is take your 6-figure income and turn it into 7-figure wealth, you should check out the course. It's an easy way to understand personal finance from top to bottom. So there'll probably be a link in the description below. Depending on you watch this, we'll be launching the official new version very shortly here. Okay, so on to Quicken. So I'm going to just start at the website real quick. So, of course, even in my own opinion, the sort of organization of Quicken products is confusing, and this slightly adds to that confusion. I hate to admit that, but it's true. I mean, Quicken has been around for a long time. They've had a lot of products, or variations on a few products, I should say. So it is kind of confusing for people often to figure out what they're supposed to buy. Now, previously with Quicken Classic, there was the Windows and Mac version, and then there was Classic, there was Premier, Deluxe, and then Business and Personal. It used to be called Home and Business. They are sort of renaming things, I think, to get this to be a little bit more organized. But at some point came along Quicken Simplify, which was their initial web-based personal finance software, and I think, as the name indicates, it's like a simpler version of Quicken. Doesn't have, I assume, as many bells and whistles. I'll talk about a little bit of the differences. And so for a while there, we had Quicken Simplify, and then we had Quicken Classic, which had some different levels of, I guess, features. So out of the blue, the last couple weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks, we got Quicken Business and Personal, but web-based. Now, you kind of want to say Quicken Simplify Business and Personal because it's got this purple logo, like the Quicken Simplify. So a little confusion there in the branding, I feel like. But I guess this purple logo and their new kind of Quicken purple logo indicates their web-based product. So obviously we don't need a Mac and a PC version anymore. Naturally, every company, any SaaS company is going to want a web-based product. So my guess now is, if I had to guess, they're eyeing on getting rid of Classic eventually. That's my guess. But I will say this. Quicken used to be owned by Intuit, right? Which makes QuickBooks, and QuickBooks had a desktop version, before web-based. They came out with QuickBooks Online. I don't know how many years ago. It could be 10 years ago now. QuickBooks Desktop is still going strong. I'm sure they would like to move everyone to QuickBooks Online and sunset the desktop product, but that's hard to do. You got a lot of users on there. There's a lot of users on Quicken Classic, so my guess is it's going to be around for a while. And my goal a little bit in this video is, how is it different? How is the new Business and Personal different from the classic Business and Personal? All right. Sorry for that long heads up. I'm working on improving my meanderings. Of course, I'm meandering now. Okay, here we go. So Quicken Simplify, I'm going to call it Quicken Simplify Business and Personal. Just, I don't know, that seems to be the way I want to label it. But as you can see here, just a real quick thing, if you're deciding between the products, this is Quicken Classic. Obviously, it looks like what people call software from the 90s. So I'll admit that. Now, I'm going to throw up the Quicken Mac version, actually, Quicken Classic Mac. It looks more modern. It always has. But these two products work very similarly. They have the kind of deep feature set, more honestly, almost in the professional bookkeeping sort of realm. But they are computer-based or locally installed programs that operate off a database file on your computer. Now, just my own thought, web-based applications like this also operate off a database file. That database file is just on the server in the cloud or on the server at the Quicken, data center or whatever. So there is a data file somewhere. You just don't have to see it and deal with it. So clearly, even from the Mac version here, we're in the new decade. We're in the right decade now with the Quicken Simplify product. It's completely web-based, so it's akin to, probably the big competitor these days, I feel like, is Monarch. There's also YNAB. YNAB's kind of a unique thing and in kind of its own category. Doesn't do as many things as traditional personal finance software. There's a couple other web-based things I'm not thinking off the top of my head, but Monarch is one I hear a lot of, and lately. But Quicken has been around for a long time. It's a great product. They know how to do personal finance right, so I'm sure this product is very good. But I've been playing with it, and of course, being the advanced and long-time legacy user that I am, I couldn't use it quite yet. But I think for someone that's not as intensive about tracking their finances, probably I would steer maybe towards this product. Now, Quicken, I'm going to go the main difference between Simplify and the Simplify Home and Business, will say, to me, that's kind of critical problem is reporting. So in reporting here in Quicken Simplify, you don't actually get a real report, so it seems. You get these sort of, pre-made simple reports, hence the Simplify, but you don't get your standard, income and expense report, or what we might call income statement or profit and loss. And I'll show you the difference here. If you go to reports over here, your initial profit and loss, looks like a regular report. Now, this may not matter to you. If you're not into the finance thing so much, you might be like, all right, I just want to see how much I'm spending and if I spent more than I made. And that is minimally a great thing to do. So, but that for me is deal breaker number one. I need a regular report to look at, because my brain's just trained to look at that. So if I were going to go web-based, I'm definitely going personal and business. But obviously, I'm going to go personal and business. I'm an advanced Quicken guy. You know what I mean? So that's something to consider. Now, when it comes to this personal and business and then saying, hey, what does it do the same or different than Quicken Classic? I've been poking around, and I'm going to just show you what I think here. So first, I'm going to go to settings and see all the things that you can customize or not customize. First thing I notice is your categories and tags. You have categories, you have tags, you don't have category groups. And so that will affect to the degree to which you can customize your reports. Now, this is an example report here of mine from Quicken Classic Windows, and it uses this functionality in the categories, category group, category, and subcategory. And that allows me to really customize the way a report is laid out. Without category groups, you have less options there. But I'll be honest, Quicken Classic Mac does not have category groups either. So you can live without them, for sure, in Quicken Mac. But really quick, I guess it's worth saying that it's important to me to get a report that's easy to read and encapsulates everything in one report. And that means you can spend less time, kind of messing around with your finances. So the categories and how you can set them up affect the way your report comes out. So having some flexibility in categories is important. But here you can see they have categories and subcategories, and they have tags. And of course, they have the tax form light on, which is like, I don't even use that, but I'm sure a lot of people do. So that's something to look at. It has rules. Now, rules are the automation that both Quicken creates on its own and also that you can edit or add to. And basically, that is how your incoming data, your transactions that download from your bank get categorized automatically. And this helps you ensure they get categorized correctly automatically. I call it training Quicken in many of my videos. So it has the option for you to create rules, which is important. I'm sure, I would guess the rule like functionality and its ability to do things correctly is better in the web-based newer version than in Classic. Classic, I would say your rules work like 80% of the time. That's one of my big beefs with Quicken all along. But that's really important. Spaces and sharing, it looks like you can have multiple users into the book. So that's good, actually, if you had a finance manager, a business manager, what is something I do. You can have your business manager get in with their own user and password. So that's cool. So let's see, back to settings. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. Now, to me, the reports are really important. So that's deal breaker number one, but I think we're kind of good on reports. Reports require categories, so I think we're kind of good there, though I'm sure Quicken Classic definitely has more flexibility. In terms of the business of personal and business, I will say this, the way I even found out that this product existed was doing my CFO work. I got an email of a bill from a vendor, one of my clients, and the bill came from Quicken. And I was like, oh my God. And you could pay with a credit card. Now, this is one of my other big beefs at Quicken Classic. I like the business features. I use the invoicing, but there was no way to have credit card or ACH payments be clickable and doable like right on the invoice. They have obviously added that here in Quicken Home and Business. And over here, you can see you can connect your Stripe account and you can accept credit cards and probably debit card or debit payments as well, or ACH payments, I should say. So they got that figured out. So for the business users doing invoicing, that's going to be huge and a huge advantage for the web-based version of Quicken Business and Personal. Now, you might not need that. If you don't have a business, you don't even, quote unquote, need the business of Business and Personal. But your other option for a web-based is Quicken Simplifi, and I honestly think it's probably too simple, and I would recommend you just using Business and Personal, and you just don't use the business side, but you're going to get more features in Business and Personal. So I would go with that if you were choosing between those two things. Okay. Excuse me. Another new important thing that this is a real deal killer for me for the web-based home and business versus Classic. professional bookkeeping software has the ability to do what's called journal entries, which is basically a manual transaction that helps you move money from like one account to another. Like if you wanted to, move money from like one expense account to another without changing the category, you could do a journal entry. Quicken Classic doesn't even have that, but you can do your own like kind of hacked journal entries in there by entering a zero transaction and having your splits be positive and negative. It works just like a journal entry. Using the word hack actually is kind of not even appropriate. It could have been a feature easily built in by Quicken Classic, but it wasn't. As far as I can tell, you cannot do that here in web-based home and business. And for me, particularly with doing my business finances and my real estate finances for my CPA at the end of the year, the journal entry really helps me. Now, I've made videos on Quicken Classic about doing journal entries. Your average person, even personal finance enthusiast, is going to be like, what's a journal entry? I think once you kind of know what they are, you would use them, but you cannot do them, so as far as I can tell in here, because it doesn't allow you to do positive and negative numbers in a split and have those zero out. And I think the reason why is this, and this is my next point, the other deal killer here, and it's sort of interrelated, is that you can't put positive and negative numbers or a debit and a credit into an expense account or an income account in the web-based here. Your income account categories are positive numbers. Your expense account categories are going to be quote unquote negative numbers or money out or debits. And you cannot manually override that. So let me show you what I mean here. You make a new transaction. The amount, you can't change it to be positive or negative in here. It always changes it back to quote unquote positive, like visually. But the way you determine if it's a debit or a credit is to put it in either an income account or an expense account. That's a deal killer for me too, because it means probably the way your reports can be organized is going to be limited. Probably your report, and I don't even know to what degree you can customize your reports yet. The way I like to have reports is in some cases like to have my business income and expense in one section, like here, and have it subtotaled and then move down to another section where I might have income and expenses because I like the subtotaling. This report's, my guess is it's going to throw income always up in the income. So if you have rental property income, you have business income, you have personal dividend income, whatever, throws income all up into one area and expense all down in one area. And that's not necessarily a deal killer for most people, but that for me, just because I'm used to, the way I do it, I'm not going to be able to customize my reports in the way I like. But I would say for some getting into personal finance, or you're not too picky about how things look, you're going to have all your income up in one area, all your expense down in another. And of course, the net result of all that is going to be the same. So I'm going to stop there because I don't want to make like an epically long video. It's already almost 20 minutes, but these are just some of like the initial key things that, I went to compare between classic, we'll call it classic home and business, and I'm going to call it Simplifi home and business, even though I don't think that's the correct branding, to be honest, in deciding whether or not I would use it, or not. Now, the other thing I'll say is my first question was, can I import my Quicken Classic historic data into the new Simplifi web-based home business? And the answer is no. So if I were going to start using this, I would have to have all my previous year data in the classic version, and whenever I started, I would have in here, which I would start on like January 1st, in here. So who knows? They might keep modifying this and make it more flexible for like more of like the advanced users like me. I don't know. Maybe they'll take the classic product and keep web-basifying that. There is a web-based component to that already. I did a video about that. It's not amazing like web-based, but it's definitely helpful. But this is obviously like the future of Quicken. I mean, just even the way it looks and so on, we can see that it's like moving into the future. So, well, anyway, this web-based business and personal, by the way, does have a lot more features. I'm not getting into all of them. It's got the business side. It's got clients and projects. It's got invoicing. You can do all sorts of retirement planning, future looking, which is great. It's a lot of what I cover even in my course is all about that. I do it in spreadsheet now, and I teach that in my course, but I'm happy to use more advanced tools for that. So maybe I'll do some videos about, what those look like. Of course, it has bills and income management, investment accounts. I'm going to assume the investment accounts work similarly to the ones in Quicken Classic, but I would also assume that there's probably things I can do in Classic that I can't do in here in terms of like tweaking things or doing like manual overrides and stuff. But nonetheless, I'm excited that Quicken is finally putting this product out. I think Quicken's one of the best values out there for personal finance software. This for the first year is $50 for the year. After that, it's $8 a month. It's one of the least expensive. And also, it's the company that's been around the longest. So my fear always with using a product that is going to have historic information in it is, will they be there 5 years from now? Many have come and gone. Quicken is still there, so it's another reason I like them. All right, thanks so much. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.